Good evening, folks. So nice to see you, and a warm welcome to people online. My name is Paul, and I've got Brian with me tonight.
Hi.
How you doing, man?
Okay. Yeah.
Good?
Yeah, okay.
Is this nerve-wracking? A bit?
It wasn't up until about 10 seconds ago, and now
Okay,
it is.
now it gets pretty bad.
Now it's a little bit,
Yeah.
but we'll get past that, I'm sure.
For me as well.
Yeah.
That's great. I really wanted to talk to you because I think we've got a common story that between us that we're going to go into tonight. But I think in that there's also kind of like a perspective that's changed in my life, and I think it's a perspective that many Christians might have that I want to challenge tonight, and I think it is the question of the perspective of Christians, whether God is at work in people beyond the church. And I think we'll hear a very clear answer to that tonight. I am part of a ministry called Acorn, and I'm not going to really go into that tonight, because I just want to have Brian's story speak for itself. But if you want to find out anything more about that, or if you want to sign up, my email comes up, so it's quite easy to ping me via email, and we'll be in touch. We're going to have a question and answer session at the end of this, so we'll probably talk for about 40, maybe 45 minutes max, then we'll take a 5-minute break for everybody who needs a quick cuppa or a bathroom. And if you're watching this with a group, you can see if you can figure out some questions to ask. And the text number that comes up at the bottom, you can text at any time during the evening to ask either Brian or myself a question. And if you're in the room tonight, and there's going to be a roving microphone, but if you find that a bit scary, you can just text in as well. Double options. Hey, but I just want to start with a wee story. And this story was shared by a guy called John Ortberg. He's quite a famous Christian writer, and he wrote a book called If You Want to Walk on Water, You've Got to Get Out of the Boat. And he shares a dog's and a cat's perspective on the same family. And this is what I want to talk about tonight, and I think what will come through is this idea of a change of perspective. So here's the dog's journal on this family. 8 a.m., dog food, my favorite thing. 9:30, car ride, my favorite thing. 10:30, a walk in the park, my favorite thing. 12 noon, a snack, my favorite thing. 2 o'clock, a snooze, my favorite thing. 3 p.m., I wagged my tail, my favorite thing. 5 p.m., I sniffed the dog's behind. I can say that in church. My favorite thing. 11 p.m., a great sleep on the bed after a wonderful dinner. My favorite thing. I love this family. Cat's journal. This is going to be different. Day 983 of my captivity. My captors continue to taunt me with bizarre little dangling objects. They dine on fresh meat, while the other inmates and I are fed dried, horrible granules. The only thing that keeps me going is my dream of escape. And in an attempt to discuss them, I once again vomit on the carpet. Today, I decapitated a mouse and dropped its headless body at their feet. I had hoped that this would strike fear into their hearts, since it clearly demonstrates what I am capable of. However, they merely made condescending comments about what a good little hunter I am. Losers, these people are. I think you can tell that I'm a dog lover. So if you're not, don't take this too personally. But it's interesting, it's the same family and it's a really different perspective. And I think we might do the same thing as Christians, because I think some of us think that people beyond the church are far away from God. And they couldn't perhaps be further from God. Perhaps there's a perspective that God might be in here, in a church building, but not out there. And then there might be that perspective with the Christians that, oh wow, that means it's up to us to kind of like save the world. And if you've got that perspective, then it goes on pretty quickly to you need to run faster, do more, speak better. And you know, you get frustrated, and at a certain point you just stop. You're like, I can't do this, right? And I really want to challenge that kind of thinking tonight, because I think that is incorrect. Because I'm learning to have a positive perspective that God is already there. And connecting with people on real spiritual issues beyond the church is possible, and it's real, and it's true, right?
It is.
It is, yeah.
Yep.
And you know what? People are seeking God. And Brian, I think in your story, you know, there's an awareness of self. There's all kinds of things that was already happening. You know, a longing for hope, for more in life. And it was really clear that in your life, God was already there. Yeah. So thanks for showing me that, man. That's great.
You're welcome.
So, and I think the interesting thing is because, you know, you might not have realized it early on, but you know, I think we perhaps both dare to say now that God was already underway with you. Yeah.
100%. I didn't know how to understand it.
Yeah.
I'd never been to church ever.
Okay.
I'd never picked up a Bible. Church was completely alien to me.
Wow.
It was a different world. I didn't know anybody that went to church. I didn't have any contact at all.
Okay.
But I had a niggle, and I had unanswered questions about everything. And for me, I didn't think God was there because I couldn't understand how it worked. I was looking too much at how does it work? How would that happen? What are the numbers? You know, I need to see a picture of it. I need to see a formula on how that worked.
Okay.
And because I couldn't see that, then I just kind of moved on. I needed, but once you believe, then you don't. It was a huge step, but that only happened very recently for me. You know, very, very recently.
One of the big things you love talking about, and definitely used to absolutely love talking about much more back then, was your motorbike.
Yeah. So my life pre-barbering, barbering was the rebirth of me. I had on paper a successful life, I suppose, a big fancy house and lots of stuff. I had a really good job, but my life was utter chaos, and I kept making worse and worse and worse decisions, and it getting more and more and more chaotic. And then 2 years ago, on March the 20th, a number of things happened, and I lost everything within a month. So my home, my marriage, my career, everything that I had to put in 2 skips and walk away from. I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have it. So it was the end of that chapter of my life.
Wow. Tell me a bit more what happened then before you came. So you say it's a downhill thing. It was a chaotic thing. Because at a certain point, I think you tried to run away from all that, right?
Yeah, in 2019, I've always ridden motorbikes since I was 3.5 years old. I've had a motorbike.
3.5.
So it's something that's absolutely in my blood, and I've ridden and raced motorbikes all over the world. But the day after my birthday, 2019, I was really, really down, and I decided to jump on my motorbike, and I was going to end my life in Berlin, of all places. So I was just running. Life was very, very, very hard at that point, and I couldn't see a way out of it. So I ran away.
Yeah.
I jumped on my bike and didn't know where I was going, but I ended up, yeah. But on the way to, something happened on the way to Berlin that I can't explain, or I couldn't explain at the time. So I'm an experienced motorcyclist. I'm driving along an autobahn. I've been riding for 6 or 7 hours. I've been soaking wet, dry, 5 or 6 times. It was horrific weather, but then the skies opened up and it was beautiful, clear. And I was riding in a t-shirt because I was that wet, and it was warm. And I'm on a straight bit of road, and there's nothing in front of me, and the bike started to wobble. So, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, what do you do here? Do you go faster to kind of settle it down, or do you go slower? And I went, I'll go faster. And that really didn't work. So it went from lock to lock. And I'm on a straight bit of road, and the bike is going from lock to lock.
Wow.
And I went, I'm going to die. That's it. It's over.
How fast were you going? Really fast? On the motorbahn, yeah? Really
116 miles an hour, I remember looking at the speed.
116 miles an hour, wow.
Which isn't fast on a motorbike, but on a Harley, that's really fast. And I just stopped. I went, okay, there was no reason for the bike to go out of control. And I thought, well, that's it. I'm going to die. And I eased off the throttle, and the bike was still going mental. And then all of a sudden, it just snapped back and was perfectly straight again. And I looked in the mirror. I remember I looked in the mirror to see. Someone must have seen that, because it was crazy. And there was nobody behind me, and there was nobody in front of me. And then I caught a reflection of myself in the mirror, and I burst out laughing. And then I burst out crying. And I was an hour from Berlin. I carried on, and the bike never missed a beat ever again. But that was a big moment for me. And it was a huge turning point because I went to Berlin to go and die.
Yeah. So you could have just let it happen.
I could have just let it happen. But the relief of it not happening was massive.
Because you're seeing yourself in the mirror, and at that moment, you've got a reason to live? Is that
It was just all perfectly clear at that point. It was like, okay. And I went, well, I don't want to die.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to die.
Yeah.
I was relieved.
Okay.
And my life was really horrific at that point, but that was fine. So I couldn't, now looking back on it, then God was there. Mm-hmm. There's no question of it.
Yeah.
At that time, though, I didn't know, I wasn't around anyone that knew God. So I couldn't understand it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's fast forward a bit then to my part of the fence here, because I'm doing this. It's a daily practice where I pray a very simple prayer every day, and it's just, Lord, who do you want me to connect with beyond the church today? And I pray this every day, and it was one Thursday when I prayed it. And sometimes we meet with a small group of people to talk about this, and we were just, there was just 2 of us. We were meeting in Tesco's cafe, and the lady that was with me shared the most wonderful and difficult story about her life, and I was just so full of it. And I need to get a haircut. It was November, and but my app wasn't working for the usual hairdresser. So I passed a wee barber shop on the way, and I just walked in, and this guy sat there with a big beard and a face mask on. And the key about this Acorn thing is that you ask the question, how are you? Because when you ask that question, everything else then takes place in the realm of what's happening in the other person. So I don't need to sell anything. I just need to listen and find out what God is doing. So Brian, I asked you that question, how are you? Do you remember what you said?
I'm amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really good.
And I could see that even behind the face mask, I saw this massive smile.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't seen the nose ring at that point. That was quite, that was funny.
The masks were good.
We were all masked up. And your answer was so exuberant that I was like, whoa, tell me more. And I was like, this is a God moment. You know, there's something here. And then it wasn't even 5-10 minutes later. I was like, how can you say that you're amazing when you've gone through all this stuff? And you shared some other stuff with me, and I was like, wow.
I think it was because life is amazing.
Yep.
There's no... Yeah, but, you know, when I don't go around telling my story to everybody, because a lot of it I'm not proud of or happy with.
Yep.
But a stranger walked into me and said, "How are you?" And I was like, "I'm really great. I'm amazing."
Yeah. Yeah, it was true.
And I was.
Yeah.
And I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the interesting thing that happened during that conversation as I was listening, because you said twice, I feel like I'm being led.
Yeah.
And the second time I said to you, hey man, what are you talking about? Is it a friend or a person leading you? And you said no. And then I said, is it like an energy or something spiritual? You said
it's more personal than that.
It's more personal than that. So I lean into, so there's just two of us in this barbershop, right? This is an empty barbershop, and I lean into the mirror, and I'm like, whoa, man, are you saying this is God?
and I said it could be.
Yeah.
Because at that point, but I'd never had anyone talk to me about God before.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, of course, is you don't know that I'm a Christian.
No.
You know, I think I can't go and have this conversation with someone because people are going to do all kinds of stuff. No, it's just an open question, right?
Yeah.
So we spent, nearly an hour. And we decided to exchange details because we both felt there was a connection there, right?
Yeah.
So we met up, a couple of times after that, and you came to my house. We talked about God, and the second time you came, we were talking about God, and we were talking about prayer. And you'd never prayed before. You
never
said.
Prayed. Well, I'd done like the Lord's Prayer at Scouts.
Yep.
But I never prayed. I didn't know how to pray. You know, I've seen the movies.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. And you also told me that you felt really reluctant to pray because what I wrote down is you said, I don't want to come across as an embarrassed, needy child.
Yeah, because for me, praying was like, God, will you help me? You know, I'm in a mess. Will you give me this? Will you help me do this? And will you sort this? Will you? And I just felt God's got enough on his plate. He's not needing to have someone, no, help me, help me, help me, help me.
Yeah.
So I was kind of embarrassed to be asking for help again.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we actually we prayed a prayer. Let's see if we can put it up on the screen. But I just shared a couple of words with you.
Yep.
And
that's still in my van.
That's your van. So tell us about the picture first, man. So that's your van.
Yep. So you gave me that. You wrote that down for me.
Okay.
And you said, okay, this is the start. Okay.
Yeah.
It was really simple.
Wow.
And we did it together. And I'm like, okay.
So that's still a key moment for you.
Yeah.
Right? Wow.
So I clipped it into my van, which is still there. Yeah. I see it every day. I don't have a motorbike anymore, unfortunately. But
so if you can't read it, what it says is, God, today, please reveal yourself to me. Really simple. And I remember we were about to pray this prayer, and you didn't know what to pray. So I just said, hey, just say after me. And we just said these couple of words. And as you put your hands together and you bowed your head at my kitchen table, you said, I've never been so scared and so excited in my whole life.
It was a really scary moment for me.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I was just completely out of my comfort zone. Completely.
Why is that?
What's-
Was that because I was pushing you, or what?
No, I didn't want to make a mess of it for a start.
Okay,
You know, I didn't want to.
the God thing. You didn't want to
Yeah, I
make a
didn't
mess
want
with
to
God.
be embarrassed, or
Yeah.
I just didn't know. And you know,
Okay.
what do you do when you don't know, when you
You've
never
never
know?
done that kind of thing. Yeah, it's okay.
It's very difficult to say, okay, you don't wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to pray.
Okay.
You don't, because you don't know how.
Yeah. So as you walked out the door, I said, "Do you remember the prayer?" And you were like, "Hey, I'm not sure." So I wrote it down on a card, and then you pinged me that picture. You WhatsApped me that picture the next morning, saying, "I'm doing it."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wow, man, that's amazing."
Yeah.
So we met up a couple of weeks later, and I said, you know, as we were having a coffee, I said, "Man, hey, man, are you still doing it?" And you said, "Well, nah, I've pretty much got a conversation now."
It gets much easier, doesn't it?
Like
It's you know, you get it doesn't. It's not uncomfortable then.
Yep.
Once you're over that hurdle and
Once you get
you've
going.
got to feel okay, and then all the stuff that's in your head you can do.
Okay.
You know, it's like there's no barrier then, no limit.
And just talk to God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It was interesting because we met. It was a Tuesday actually when we met, and you shared with me that on Thursday the rent was due, and you didn't have it. And I knew that was a God moment for me, where I had to pray for a miracle. And my faith was not big enough to say to you, "Oh, God will sort it, and let's pray for a miracle, and God will," and all that kind of stuff, because I wasn't sure. However, I can remember this very clearly. I deliberately used kind of like wording that you couldn't read too much into, but for me it was highly meaningful. There were words like, "Lord, will you please provide for Brian?" Okay, without saying, "Oh, the rent is due 2 days, God, can you please do this?" And I left it at that. And I phoned you on Saturday morning, and goodness me, you were so excited.
Well, I had 4 job offers.
You had four jobs.
I had no money, nothing for that rent,
Yeah.
nothing. And a guy that I'd met a while ago, he offered me some wood chopping work, and then his van broke down. And then a guy that I'd bumped into, complete stranger, asked if I needed any work. We're just talking to him with my dogs.
Okay.
And I said, "Okay, what sort of work?" He says, "I build greenhouses." I'm like, "Okay, I'll build greenhouses."
So let's unpack that a little bit more. So you've got a guy who phoned you. So you said, "Can you do wood chopping with me?" He
No,
gives
he
you a
didn't.
day work.
Yeah. gives
Then
me
he's coming for you. He's going to come for you the next day, but his van breaks down.
Yep.
And you're sitting in the house sulking, like, "Oh no, a day's work. I need to pay my rent."
Yep.
You get a phone call from another guy.
No, it wasn't even a phone call. I was out walking my dog,
You're out walking your dog. You bump into a guy
who I've never met before.
who you've never met before, and he says, "Can you come and build some greenhouses with
He
me?"
says, "Are you working?" And I went, "No, I'm not."
What?
He says, "Okay, I can give you some work."
Wow.
Now, I still work with this guy to that day.
Still work with him.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Because I know just in that 1 week, week and a half, I think he gave you 5 days of work.
Yep.
And there wouldn't have been that amount of work in the wood chopping.
No.
And
And,
then,
also, I'd never chopped wood before. so it was, I wasn't going to be amazing at it.
it's great.
But
Yeah. And somebody also helped you to pay the rent.
Yeah.
Right? So come on Thursday, rent got paid, things were happening, and I was worried and praying for days. And then on Saturday morning, you know,
all
I couldn't
good.
believe you were just so relaxed. I was daring to give you a ring because I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure if this is going to be any good." And you were just in
Yeah.
such a good place.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Miraculous.
that four things that have happened, I've continued in my life.
Yep.
You know, they're good things
They're
for
still
me.
happening. That's
Still
great.
got that.
Okay. So so one thing we did at that point, I said, "Hey, maybe it's worthwhile looking a bit more into this, into the God and the faith stuff." And one of the options we had, and maybe we can put it on the screen, it's by it's a Christian charity called Solas, and they help you with faith conversations. Now, if you type in Solas on the internet, there's all kinds of things that come up. But if you type in Solas Christianity, this site will come up. And they have got, on their resources section, they've got a short questions and answers section, right?
Yeah.
And I thought you might just watch maybe one or two of those.
That was a great website for me because I'm not a particularly strong reader, and I just don't know where to start with the Bible. So, and because of the way that I needed the facts all the time, it gives you lots of great videos and explanations, and your brain's just exploding with it. It's like, right, okay, that's right, I get it. So real like short videos, and you can type in questions, and there's an answer, and it was really helpful.
Great,
really good.
Because you like scientific facts and stuff. We talk about this kind of stuff a lot, and they've
one
got
of
some
the
of those
things,
videos.
One of the things that I struggled with before with God, how did He do it? How did all these little things happen? And I can't understand it. I'm not God. So, but it took something like that to show me, for me to go, all right.
How many videos?
It's okay.
How many videos?
I think I completed it. I think I watched a lot of videos.
A lot of them. That's amazing, man.
Because you can just click on your phone and it's straight there.
It's easy.
It's really
3-4
easy.
minutes.
You just there you go.
Great. So the first point we met was in November 21. That was. I'm going to forward us to 8 days after Easter. That would be 22 then. So that's not even a year ago. And we agreed to meet in a pub, and we were having a beer. And
you were having a beer.
I was having a beer. Were you not? Oh, well done, man. Oh, bless you. Hey, but you'd watched the program over Easter, right? And you were asking yourself a question.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing, because I had my brain kind of tuned in to wanting more knowledge and wanting. I wanted stuff, and it was Easter, so there was lots of stuff religious. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch it. Be great. And I had loads of questions.
So there was this program about Jesus having the Last Supper with his disciples.
Yeah.
And you said to me, it was really interesting. You were really excited. You leaned into me over the table in the pub. You said to me, Paul, imagine you're one of these disciples, right? And you're sitting there.
But
and Jesus says, one of you is going to betray me.
But can you imagine it, being there? It just blew my brain. But because you read, people talk these stories, they kind of brush over these stories.
Yep.
And you hear it, and it's like, oh, and Jesus had the Last Supper, and all the disciples were there, and blah, 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 and there you go.
Yeah.
But if you actually sit down and think, right, imagine being there.
It's big. Well, I was just amazed, okay, because I think a lot of Christians think that other people are not interested in spirituality. So when there's a program about Jesus, the first thing you'll do is flick the channel. If you finish the program, you've probably fallen asleep. If you finished it and you've watched it, then you just click onto the next channel. But here's 8 days after this program, you were walking into the pub, and you're still full of this. I think it's amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So that evening, we then started asking further questions, weren't we? And I hadn't prepped anything. I wasn't expecting this.
I'm a big question guy.
Sorry?
I like a question.
But we battled out between us, well, who is this Jesus guy then? And what was his Easter about? And why did he die? And why did he come?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But I would never have had that opportunity before, because I've never had a starting point.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was just natural, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we met. We went up markets from there on, because we met in a filling station in town. Now, am I allowed to call that a restaurant? They've got burgers, but good burgers. Yeah. Bistro, what is it? It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. And you remember what you said to me at that point? We just walked in. You said, Paul, if anybody would ask me,
yeah, I would have been like, no one would believe it. And that's part of, the thing once you start discovering and start believing, then your world changes because the people around you change. Or I didn't have anyone round about me that I could talk to anyone about. But no one would believe at all if I would be talking about Jesus or.
But you said to me, because you said to me, Paul, if anybody would ask me, I think I would say that I'm a believer now.
Yeah.
Right?
And the reason I said think was because I was still embarrassed, fearful. Because I think if you put your flag in the ground and say, look, I'm a believer, then you better know the Bible, and you better, and I don't.
Yep.
So I don't want to say that, and then someone says, okay, tell me about this, and I'm going to go, I don't know. And then I'm going to feel like a fraud.
Yep.
So you kind of close it in, and I'm a believer, well, kind of, it might be.
So this was before the summer. So what we did there and then is we downloaded the Bible app on your phone. It's a U version. If you go to Bible.com or U version, and we. I went away for the summer. We met up when I came back, and tell me about this Bible app.
It's a really good machine because it's short videos. You can click on it. It wakes me up or reminds me 6:30 in the morning. I pray each day. It tells you, remember to pray. Yeah, okay. But it gives you lots of, little, 5-minute, and it gives you something to think about and something to, even just for you can think about it all day, but you could, just a bit of clear space and say, all right, okay, I get what they're talking about, and you kind of feel like you're becoming part of it, and the amount of times that something's going on in my life, and then something comes on, and you're like, that's exactly what we're talking about. It's really relevant most of the time.
Yeah. Well, I was slightly frustrated with that conversation because I'd gone off and had a lovely holiday. And I come back to this guy who pretty much says, have you seen this Bible plan? Have you seen the one on patience? I've done that. Yeah. Have you seen this one? Have you seen that one? Have you read this? So you absolutely put me to shame. And I thought, that is just wonderful. Hey, and one thing I saw in you at that point, I saw a piece in you that I hadn't seen yet. There was just this difference in you, and you started to share about your decision making. Can you share a little bit about that? How that changed?
Yeah, the way I put it into words to you was, in my life, I always chose the left-hand path.
Okay, left-hand path.
Which was wrong. Now, I knew it was wrong.
Yep.
But I just kept choosing it. Once you start going down that path, I found it really hard to, and this is what I was talking to you about, the wording of it. It's really hard to get off that path and get onto the right-hand path. You can't see a way of doing it.
Okay.
And if you do year upon year, decade upon decade of just making left-hand decisions all the time, your life just is a mess.
But year upon year, you were also thinking of, or you were convinced that there was another way?
Certainly since the motorbike incident, and before that, I'd been saying to even the people in, when you're making that left-hand decisions, as I call them, your life is filled of that left-hand decisions.
Yep. And
that's the people, your relationships, everything about you is that left-hand path.
Yeah.
And I knew it was wrong. but I wasn't confident enough to make a right-hand choice
Yeah.
because it would have stood out in that
Okay.
world as being really odd.
Yeah, sure. And you also didn't really know where to go and how to
I
do
didn't know
that.
how to make the right dance.
So you know something's there. So
I didn't know how to get. It sounds stupid, but it was really. You kind of just give up, and you just keep going.
okay.
Well, I've already gone so far off the beaten track. Then it doesn't really matter what I do. I kind of felt lost.
So if you put that into Christian language, you might almost say like, hey man, I know I was a sinner, I was doing all the wrong stuff, all the wrong thing, but I just didn't know how to get out of it. And I needed somebody to get me out of there.
I needed a nudge. I needed someone to just show me the little path.
Yeah.
Just go, see if you just go up there,
Because
you'll be all right.
Because you've also been talking about an itch or a nudge that you'd now say that God has been itching and God has been nudging you towards.
Yeah, it's looking back on it. There was always the nudges and always, but I just wasn't confident enough or open enough, or I just wasn't. I didn't believe.
Okay. One thing that I've really appreciated definitely these last couple of months, Brian, because I've seen the decisions that you used to make, often based on emotion or passion or short-term stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of stuff that you're doing now is just different.
Yeah, and it's such a relief.
Yeah, it's not about you that much anymore.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's really not. Going down the left-hand path, knowing you're always going left and knowing it's always wrong. See, once you make a right-hand decision, wow, it's much easier going right.
So I just saw the tears in your eyes earlier. So that when that prayer came up,
Yeah.
so that's one of those right-hand moments then, yeah?
Yeah, it was. But once you're on that path, you can keep going.
You can keep going. We're on the path. So
You can keep going.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to go left now. I don't know.
That's cool.
You know, it just feels like that's really. But I needed to lose everything to get that. That was the equivalent of me dying.
Yep.
That full stop. That old life was finished, and then you've got a chance to go and say, right, I'm going to do a good job.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a good man. I'm going to go right.
Yeah. And we actually. We found out that Jesus talks about this in Scripture, doesn't he? About the narrow and the wide road.
When I was telling you this, your face was like, okay. But then you told me, and I'm like, well, I didn't know. But
yeah, that's so cool. But I think it's so cool that the words you were already living out, in a sense, the words of Jesus. You know, it's not just some distant teaching, but it's the reality of life that we are all experiencing and facing wherever we are. Hey, man. So question, so this right-hand path, you think there's many people out there who'd like to choose this narrow road. However, there's not a lot of people nearby that would help them with that. And that is then, so what's wrong with the church? I mean, what do we do, man?
I think
how
don't
do we
give
change?
up.
Don't give up
Don't
on
give
people.
up.
Okay, don't give up on people.
Don't give up.
Okay.
You know, I was really far left.
Okay. So what about how Christian people spend their time? Because a lot of Christian people might spend a lot of their time with Christian people, doing Christian things in a Christian building.
Yeah. I think just get out there a bit more. I think it's, we've been on this journey together. I'm not unique. You know, I'm not different. So I think you say, you know, how are you? I think you need to ask that in the right way.
Yeah.
It needs to be a proper how are you?
Yeah, not just a how are you.
Because everyone's like, oh yeah, I'm sound.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm okay, man.
Yeah. So if it's a real how
then
are you?
Yeah.
That's
But if that's all it takes, just start asking how people are.
great, man. That's great. Brian, just give me one more thought on something that's just better now with God? You know?
I had an experience last week, and I was really struggling with a personal issue, a thing, and it wouldn't go away. Open my eyes in the morning, it was there. Close my eyes at night, it was there. And just kept niggling away at me. And every time something went not quite right, bang, that was straight back into my head. And I was getting frustrated with it. I was getting really, really frustrated with it. And I sat in my van, and I saw the card, and I went, and I prayed. And I can tell you this, the second that I finished praying, it went.
Wow.
I don't have to deal with that.
God will deal with that.
If you'd told me that 19 months ago, I'd have struggled.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have struggled.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, but telling you it's true.
Amazing.
So, and it, like that, gone.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
You're not alone anymore.
No, it's really good.
Yeah, great. Folks, can we just give it up for Brian? And then we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll have some questions and answers. Brian, thank you so much, man.
No problem. No problem.
Are you ready for this, Brian?
I'm ready.
Okay. So I'll give you both questions, and you can see how you answer them. So the first question is, have you started praying this Acorn prayer? Lord, did you want me to connect with Beyond the Church today yourself? And the second question is kind of connected with this, is have you had any how are you moments with people?
So yes and yes. I think I've got the perfect job for it though.
Okay.
Barber.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really, and my shop is myself and my girlfriend, and it's appointment only. So quite often it's just me and my customer.
Okay.
So it's super chilled out, and like there's some amazing conversations that go on in that shop. Really, really amazing. But the majority of them end in faith of some description, and people coming in, and I would like to think that I'm somebody who can pick up on somebody's emotions and feelings, and you know, it's so I've got a little card. I think it's one of them.
The one that was up on the screen earlier.
Yeah. And it's in my little.
We can show that card again.
Guard rack.
Yeah.
It faces me.
Yeah.
So whenever I go over, I've got my guards, and I can just have a little look. And you know, there's lots of little visual cues, but a lot of people want to talk.
Yep.
A lot of people, everyone wants to talk.
And one thing that surprised me, because you know the term barber, hairdresser, but barber to me is okay. Let's get this done quickly. I'm here to make money. 20 minutes and you're out. But you don't do that.
I book an hour slot.
You book an hour slot, so you've got time to talk.
I probably talk too much, but I listen as much as I talk.
Okay. And so one thing you've shared with me is that you know, some ex-colleagues have gotten back in touch with you.
Yeah.
Because you're now doing hairdressing.
Yeah.
But relationships with some people that you've known are changing,
changed.
and conversations with these guys are really rich, right?
Yeah, I think. Well, one was my boss. I mean, me and him did not get on. You know, looking back on it, he was trying to look after me. I was trying to self-destruct. So out of the work environment, we talk about, he's still in that job, he's excellent at it. You know, so we have stuff we can talk about, but our relationship's fantastic. He comes to me 4:30 every Saturday for a haircut, every week.
Wow, that's amazing.
He's got really short hair. Not as short as mine, but it's really short. So there's loads of relationships there.
But you would also say, would you be as black and white as to say, as if it wasn't for God, that this might not be healing? This might not be happening, or is that too much?
I think it's the success of the shop, you know, is off the scale.
How long has the shop been going?
November the 2nd, we opened our shop.
Okay.
Yeah, so 3 months.
And your first month of trading usually is really hard. To open a shop, do something new, it's usually really difficult.
Yeah.
What happened?
I had my best month ever.
You had your best month ever.
Month one.
And I also understand that because you are renting space, you're not allowed to open on a Sunday.
No, it's part of the contract. So when we were signing the contract, the lady that owns the shop, she's 93. Her husband was a barber in the same shop in the 1960s.
Wow.
And they've kept the shop on, and they always want to have barbering in it. I was like, a kind of nod. He's passed away now. And she's like, no Sunday working. I'm like, that's perfect.
But it's amazing to think that they want to, you know, they honor their faith, don't want to have the shop open. And then during the week, this guy comes in with his tattoos and everything else, and he just has God conversations with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all the time. You know, it's really...
Cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay.
I've been fully booked for 3 weeks, solid, no space, no gaps.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for this question. Folks, are there any questions in the room? Let's see if we can do a roving microphone for... It's literally just a couple of minutes. I think we'll wrap up in 10 minutes max, unless there's a cracker of a question that needs a bit of time to unpack by either of us. But is there anything anybody else wants to know? Yeah, we'll start there, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just going to ask how you manage your relationships with people that you maybe were involved with in your, the left path of your life.
There's not many relationships there. So at that ground zero, we'll call it, whatever, all of that life kind of died. There's literally one person that I can think of that's come through from that life. So there's not. But again, I think not because I don't like that people, or not that they don't dislike me. I'm sure. Just that world's gone away.
Would you also not then dare to say that perhaps the relationships that you had were not as good as you thought they were? Or
no.
Is
When things get really bad,
yeah,
it's pretty lonely.
Okay, because people are like, yeah, I'm not going to hang out with this guy.
Nah, it's pretty lonely.
Okay, so a lot of people left.
Everyone, yeah.
Everyone left. Yeah. Wow.
But it needed to happen.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't comfortable.
Because they were leading you further up the left path anyway.
Yeah, and they're still on that path, a lot of them.
Yep. Okay.
Which is...
Yep.
I'm there for them. I cut some of their kids' hair and stuff, but there's no relationship there.
So at the height of that, lots of money, lots of good things happening. If I would have asked you the question, how are you? What would the honest answer have been at that time? I
would have lied to you and said I was fine.
Okay.
But I was miserable.
Okay. So the answer definitely wouldn't have been, I'm great, thank you very much.
No.
Wow, that's interesting.
No, it was horrible.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Yeah? There's another question over here. If we can move the microphone over.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, was there a moment that you took, like, we always hear stories like C.S. Lewis, all of a sudden he said, now I am a believer, and then, he knows that, this is the moment I give myself, I give it up. Here I am, Lord. Was there a moment like that in your life?
It's been building and building. I'm shocked at the question that I asked last week. And I asked for the help, and it went. And I I'd talked to you about it when I was that's niggling, and I asked God to just help me understand, and it had been bothering me for a week, solid. And the second I finished, it was like, okay, that's absolutely fine, good. Now that, for me, is enough. Because it's not, from what I was feeling 1 minute to the next minute, to be so different, there's no other. So there wasn't a flash of light, but there was.
It was just a change, like if you are one way and now you're the other way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
see.
It's now if somebody, like when people have been asking me, like in the restaurant, it's like, you know, I think I'm a believer. I think I'm a believer. I am a believer. But I couldn't have said that before.
Yeah.
You know, but
So,
yeah, it's a.
so it's perhaps a series of moments where every time the light goes on a bit brighter.
Imagine rolling double sixes
Okay.
forever.
Okay. Just 2 dice, double six, double six, double six.
Double six. Eventually, you've got to start saying, look, come on.
This can't. Yeah. This is
Yeah. And that's what it's been like.
Really.
Yeah.
Double sixes with God.
Double, okay.
Wow.
And, you know, that's, but I don't need to keep asking for double sixes. Do you know what I mean? It's just, life gets much, much better. It's good.
Good. Brian, that was 3 questions for you, so it's 3-0 for me, so I'm doing well. I just got a question through, though, for me.
Okay.
So you can breathe for a second.
Okay.
You might not like this question.
Okay.
You might. Let me read it out. It says, sorry, let me get this opened up properly. It says, Paul, what has God taught you through Brian? Ooh, do you want to hear the answer?
Yeah.
From the moment we've met till now, which is not even a year and a half, I just cannot believe what I'm seeing. Because I'm reading so many stories in the Bible about how God does things, and I often don't see them happening. And Jesus says that he only does what he sees the Father doing. Well, what does Jesus see that makes him reach out to a woman at a well, that makes him stop and say to Zacchaeus in a tree, yo, let's have lunch at your house? Right? What is it that he sees that nobody else seems to see? And I've just been amazed that in your case, that there's somebody out there who's just hungry. You know, give me more. And every time I've said, okay, hey, this solar stuff, maybe you'd want to watch a video. You know, most people probably wouldn't even open the app. You know, and if you open it, you're like, well, that's not for me. You come back and I said, hey, have you watched a video? Yeah, I think I've watched most of them. It's like 60 videos. You know, what? You know, and I ask, hey, this prayer, is that working? Yeah, I've pretty much got a conversation with God now. So every time I've been amazed that I think God is doing something in you, you know, and even when you've struggled to verbalize it, and I've struggled to verbalize it, when you put these things in sequence, as we've done tonight, you just look at that full journey, and that's amazing.
It's a lot of double sixes.
A lot of double sixes. And I'm like, and if you call it double six, I'm like, I'm not even throwing them. That's the great thing. You know, it's not me that's doing this. Yeah. I am just along for the ride. And so what this is definitely teaching me, Brian, is that it confirms my belief that there is people out there who want more of God. And not just 1 or 2. And not just 3 or 4. But Brian, when you met me, we were both, was it 46, 47 years old?
Yeah.
Where were Christian people for 46, 47 years in your life?
I don't know.
And that's something that God is teaching me and saying, church, where are you? Because people are ready. You know, already knowing they're on the wrong path, they don't want to be there. They want something else, but they don't know how to do it.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, and I think we hold the key on that, you know. And God will convince people, but you need to be able to walk with someone and talk and bounce and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's what I've learned. That yeah, God is there. God really is already there. Okay. Is there one more last question? I think it goes over there.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's been amazing to hear your story.
Cool.
And just to see, like, you can see it in your face, just the joy of it all. I love that you ask, like, you were a questioner. And I'm guessing you probably still have questions, like, you don't have it all boxed in.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever going to run out
Yeah.
of questions. But the questions become less of trick questions. Sometimes I would be asking myself stuff that couldn't be answered. So give me the answer to an unanswerable question, and then because I didn't get the answer, it's really easy to go, rubbish. The questions get easier because I've got this sounds weird. The questions get easier because I know that the answers I'm not going to understand. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
Questions are going to be easier because the answers, you're not going to understand the answer.
I know I'm
That
not going
makes
to
sense to me.
understand all, and you know,
That
I'm
makes sense
not
to
going to
me.
understand everything.
Because you don't need to, right? Because
Yeah,
God
I
is
don't
big,
need
He's
to.
got your back.
Yeah, he's got
so
that
what?
bit.
I can just go.
Yeah.
There's freedom.
And that's exactly it. The questions were just always like ridiculous questions, you know. So
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That we
I'm
don't
glad.
need to have everything
I'm glad.
sorted.
I didn't know if that made
Yeah,
sense.
sorry,
to
that makes
everyone
sense
else,
to me.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Did that answer your question at all, or did we
no,
jump
it
the gun
did.
there?
I've got a friend who is really asks lots of questions and brilliant questions, and I just wondered what you would say.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
helpful.
Cool.
We've
Thank
got
you.
one more question just in front of you. Can the microphones come? Yeah.
I know you said you went down the left-hand path and you didn't have anyone to share with. Welcome to the family, by the way.
Thank you.
And I just wondered, did your parents have faith? Was there any faith in the family?
No.
None.
No.
That was all.
So, no, my mum passed away 14 years ago this year. In the latter stages of her life, she found faith. She had, when she was very young, she was brought up in Mull, and there wasn't a religious family, but Mum was a questioner. You know, I'm very much like her, but you know, towards the end of her life, she did find, but I didn't understand what she was finding. But I was too wrapped up on going left that I didn't, unfortunately.
I just asked the question because she may have been praying for you.
Oh, Mum's definitely,
Yeah.
yes,
And
Mum's
that's
definitely there, yeah.
You could be the result, you know, this could be the result
Yeah,
of her prayers.
that's a really nice thought.
Which gives me hope for my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's things happening in people's lives that we cannot see,
Yeah.
but they definitely happen. Folks, I want to thank you so much for coming tonight. I want to thank everybody online for tuning in. Is it okay if I wrap up with a wee prayer? Yeah?
Sure.
Let's pray. Lord, thank you so much that you are there, that you are ready to talk to us, that when we ask you a question that you want to answer, Lord, that when we are far away from you on a left-hand path, you are already nudging us, and you are giving us itches and scratches that we know that this is not right. And Lord, thank you that through Jesus we can know that there's another way, a way of hope, a way of love, a way of meaning, a way that's never going to stop. But it's a narrow path. And Lord, I just pray that you will awaken Christians and you'll awaken the church to open their eyes. Lord, open our eyes, open my eyes to connect with people, to see that they are seeking. Lord, help us to see, as Jesus says, help us to see what the Father is doing in people's lives. Lord, may we see many come to faith, and may we all have the courage to just go out and engage with people and just ask a very, very simple question. How are you? And believe that this may be a key moment in a journey that they're already on, and that people might find Jesus for themselves. So Lord, thank you for that reality, and thank you for proving that in Brian's life. Lord, we pray for a blessing on him, on the people that he loves, on the folks who are going to walk into his shop. And we just pray that you'll continue your great and mighty work in him and in all of us. Amen. Thank you very much.